Hello and welcome to Exploited, Crimes and Technology. My name is Opal Singleton and we come to you every Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock right here on AM 590, The Answer. Well, I've had so much time in the last week or two. So many people are contacting me. I can barely get all my work done because they're all excited about the movie Sounds of Freedom. Is this your movie, Opal? No, I wish it was, because then I'd be worth millions, but it is not my movie. But they did a really good job, and we'll talk about that movie. My movie, and I should say our movie, because this was in a collaborative effort, is called Sextortion, the Hidden Pandemic. It is not in theaters, but it is on many of your live streaming events. And yes, even younger kids can watch it. So if you want to know about the movie Sextortion, the Hidden Pandemic, go to sextortionfilm.com, Sextortion, Sextortion, Sextortion. It's a combination of the word sex and extortion, meaning blackmail with a photo or video or a live streaming event. And I would encourage you to go there and make sure you see that movie. I'm not interested in it financially, gaining like the Sounds of Freedom is doing. I am interested in saving your kids and your grandkids from social media exploitation, which is why I beat my brains out for 6 years to raise the funding and have that movie out. So I hope you will take time to see it. In the meantime, I've had about, 400, 800 calls about Sounds of Freedom. And I talked about it a little bit last week. I'm going to talk about it a little bit again. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of social media exploitation as well as human trafficking. This past week, yesterday, as a matter of fact, was World Human Trafficking Day. And so that's totally appropriate for a movie like Sounds of Freedom, because that took place had to do with trafficking in South America and some of Mexico. So I'll just address it a little bit. It's very well done, very well done. The acting's excellent. The plot is good. The filming is excellent. And the statements about what is happening are accurate. It is not true that that is how it takes place in the U.S. We'll talk about that in a minute. But in many of your countries where there is a lot of poverty, then you see the children to be the very first ones that are exploited. And that is how it is, whether you're in Bangladesh or Cambodia or the Ivory Coast or in El Salvador. Poor children are vulnerable children. And as in the case of this case, a father was tricked into leaving his children off to what he thought was going to be a chance to participate in a group filming, and his kids were kidnapped. That is often the case in many of these third world countries. The children maybe only have one parent household. They're barely surviving. In some cases, yes, parents actually participate in the exploitation of the children. Sometimes they put them in front of webcams. Sometimes they just kind of believe naively, especially if, for instance, you're living in outer Cambodia and you're a single woman and you have this child. Somebody will come along to you and say your child must go to school. And you're living in a grass hut, on a dirt road, a long ways from any school. And they say, we will take your child. The state will help them. They will get into school. We'll get them uniforms. And the whole thing is a lie. And the mother kind of knows it, but has no way to support that child. And so that is how it often happens. I do think the Sounds of Freedom is very well done. I personally would never, ever go into a narco community in the middle of a forest in Colombia. Although I did once go into a jail in Cambodia where we rescued a 4-year-old child, but we did it legitimately through the courts because we wanted that child to have a legitimate life, not have to be constantly hiding and whether somebody's going to kidnap her back. So it is a complex story, this idea that you see on Sounds of Freedom. All across the world, we are so fortunate here in the U.S. Even our poorest people have more than many of the middle class, if there is such a thing in many countries. While I'm on a roll, I'll just kind of address that. One of the reasons that that the United States is more fortunate than most other countries is that we had a middle class. I can tell right now you're going to get me going and I'm going to enter into politics. And I try to keep politics out of this. But what happened is back in the 20s and 30s is when the mafia, the cartels came in. Law enforcement in those days, you could trust them. They would take on these people and eliminate that mafia and that cartel. And the reason that's so important is it is the cartels and the mafia in countries all over the world that keep people from having a middle class. What will happen is that in many of these countries, a person decides they're going to be an entrepreneur, the same as you would do in the US, and you would go out and you'd open yourself a little bakery or, I don't know, some sort of soccer shop or something, whatever you want to open. But the minute you start making money, then somebody comes along to you and says, wait a minute, you got to pay me taxes or I'm going to put you out of business. I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to harm your family. I'm going to take your goods and I'm going to put you out of business. And the minute you have that in a society, you will forever have the poor because they have no way to have freedom to make a living any way they want to. And we have taken that for granted here in the US for a very long time. We see entrepreneurs all the time who get involved, they get a great idea, they work hard, they earn their way and like that. And they are able to succeed because they don't have an organized criminal organization coming along, taking away half or more of everything they earn. Unfortunately, the last few years, what we've seen with open borders is that we now have a society where you're seeing less and less ability for the good guy to win and more ability for bad guys or for the mob mentality where our kids just go in and steal what they want and put small businesses out of business. All of those things will impact long-term society. But that is what has happened in the story of Sounds of Freedom, is that you don't have a middle class. You have very poor people, and the children are the first to be the most vulnerable. So the story is accurate. Now, that doesn't have anything to do per se with what happens with human trafficking in the U.S. In the U.S., it's really quite different. It really is based on social media exploitation, on gangs. About 80 to 90% of sex trafficking cases in the U.S. are gang-related. So in that sense, it's probably not all that different from Sound of Music because it is usually, not always, but usually an organized criminal element that is preying on the most vulnerable. And so in the U.S., what you often have is the victim will often come in and participate in the crime initially without understanding the path they're going down. By the way, this is why Million Kids exists. We've been doing this now for about 13 to 15 years, 13 years here in the U.S., of educating kids of how that recruitment process, that grooming process works. And by the way, that doesn't have anything to do with your sexual choices, whether you're with your ethnicity. It really is about, are you available and vulnerable? If you're out there taking chances online, if you're going to a mall, meeting up with strangers and taking off with them, if you're on a dating site where you're going to hook up with somebody that you don't know anything about, if you're, on one of those video game chat rooms or one of those sites where you just talk to a whole bunch of people and you start sharing photos, or you offer to go out and meet up with them, that is how this kind of trafficking takes place in the U.S. It will start to look like a relationship, as opposed to what you see in the Sounds of Freedom, where, in fact, they kidnap the child. Now, I'm not saying a victim in the United States can't ever be kidnapped. They can be. But most of the time, they will literally prey on anyone who is available and vulnerable and try to seduce them into what looks like a relationship. Sometimes they think they're going to make some quick and easy money. Sometimes they will send off a naked photo thinking that they're going to be discovered in an amateur porn site. Sometimes literally it just looks like a boyfriend, and you go out and you start the relationship and that relationship changes on you. Those are all the ways that this kind of thing works here in the United States, as opposed to having our small children kidnapped. I'll go deeper into it. We are up against that break time, so I'm going to ask you to stay with us, and we're going to be right back.
Real estate sales in the Inland Empire are really hot. Sellers and buyers recognize that these low interest rates will not last. Sean and Colleen at Caldwell Banker Armstrong Properties in Riverside are proud to sponsor this show. They are the best in the Inland Empire. They're fair, honest, creative, and they care about you and your situation. If you're in the market to buy or sell a home, call Sean and Colleen at 951-529-4066.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of MillionKids.org. I believe the four most powerful words on earth are I believe in you. So we created a challenge coin that says, I believe in you on one side and stand tall, you are loved on the other side. This one-of-a-kind challenge coin is a perfect gift for birthdays, anniversaries, graduation, Christmas presents, or just an anytime gift for someone you love. What a powerful message for a parent or a grandparent to give to a young person. This 2-inch coin is made of polished gold. It's striking to look at, and it is priceless to hold. It is packaged in a beautiful black velvet gift box. What a great way to leave a legacy of love that will last forever. To purchase this coin, go to millionkids.org/gallery. Each coin is $25. Go to millionkids.org/gallery to purchase and give a legacy of love.
This message is all about Million Kids, the organization that helps locate missing kids throughout Southern California and educates to keep kids safe from predators. Million Kids educates school administrators, teachers, parents, and teenagers how predators identify a potential victim and the methods they use to recruit innocent kids. BMW of Riverside is a proud supporter of Million Kids. Visit BMW of Riverside at the Adams Street exit off the 91 freeway or click bmwofriverside.com.
AM 590, The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton, and we were talking about the movie Sounds of Freedom. Well, let me tell you a little bit about how trafficking really happens in the U.S., and it is absolutely tragic. First of all, I would be the first to tell you that trafficking is not taking place on every corner behind every bush. In fact, if it were, it probably would be easier to spot. Trafficking usually starts, in fact, there's an excellent video. It's a little hard to watch, but I use it in my trainings when I train first responders, and it's called Bianca, Human Trafficking Victim, I think it is, on YouTube. And it's a story of a girl who wanted to tell her story. In this case, she was a beautiful 15-year-old girl who had been out of the system. And that is very, very typical. This is why Million Kids does programs like, getting people to donate comforters and matching sheets and a decorative item for a foster child. Because, once you enter that foster child system, you suddenly take on a different self-image because you don't have that core relationship there. And you become rebellious. You think people don't care for you, and there will be somebody out there that will care for you. You just have to find them. And they're just easy prey. And so a lot of what Million Kids is about is supporting that group of young people who are easy prey. So you'll start meeting one of these people online, and you actually get a fantasy relationship. Now, in the fantasy relationship, you start to look online and everything seems warm and fuzzy. This happens on these dating sites all the time. By the way, a couple of weeks ago, I did one on romance scams, and I've had so many people come forward and tell me that their elderly parent gave up a huge chunk of the family fortune because they got online and had a fantasy relationship with somebody on an oil rig in Saudi Arabia, or some craziness that is hard for the rest of us to believe. But every one of us wants to be loved. Everyone wants to be admired. Everyone wants to be accepted. Everyone wants to feel inclusion and valuable. And I'm going to tell you that pimps and gangs and organized crime understand that to the max. And now we put out technology that makes that connection just like ever so easy. I used to laugh when I first got in this business because we used to tell our kids, don't take candy from strangers. And yet we put them on an internet site that might have 1 million people out there, and at least 10,000 of them are offering your child candy. Well, figure of speech, but you get what I mean. That they're doing what they can do to seduce and entice your child, to build trust with your child or any. And that's true of the elderly too, and the older people. You go online, let's say you're divorced, or maybe you're widowed, you're lonely, you miss that kind of, you have a hole in your heart and you're looking for someone you've never met to fill the hole in your heart. And that is dangerous beyond words, dangerous beyond words. I get that many people have met other people on dating sites and made it happen, and they ended up getting married. But for every one of you, there's a sad story out there of someone that got involved online and either met up with them and disappeared, or in the older case, you end up sending money, and many times a lot of it. I just would like to point that out. I'm kind of rambling along from one subject to the other today, but if you're online in an online relationship with someone you've never met, and it just, look at your own behavior. Are you obsessed with it? Are you compulsive about it? Can you not wait to get in front of the computer? You can't wait to see what they say, and then you say, and then they send, and you send, and pretty soon you think this is the only person who understands you. That is called a fantasy relationship. And if it turns into a situation where they're asking you for money, run, run, run. Do not pass go. Get the heck out of there. Shut that site off. Do not even check on it. Get yourself off that dating site. Get as far away from that person as you can. It'll sound like it's absolutely legitimate and the onus is on you. Can you just help them out? Well, of course, you're a good person. And that is how those kinds of romance scams work. Well, it's not a lot different for your child. Let's say your kid is 15 or 14, and this girl comes on and talks sweet nothings, and, everything gets hot and heavy. It's really interesting to me, the percentage of young people in our society that are going through puberty that we put online to absolutely meet total strangers and build a relationship when they are in the most vulnerable place of their life. I've often said in my presentations that literally what happens here is that many of our kids, most of our kids, their first sexual experience will be a virtual sexual experience. And if that's one of exploitation, it will affect your child's personal identity, their sexual identity, their attitudes towards other people in an intimate relationship. All of those are serious matters. By the way, I wanted to mention to you that on August 5th, I am doing something that I haven't done for a very long time. If you want to be an advocate in this kind of business, or if you're a pastor or a counselor or a therapist already working in a world where you're some sort of leader or advocacy, I am doing a Train the Trainer. It is not necessarily open to the public. It is not like a conference. This is a cold, hard training, okay? Starts at 2 o'clock, August 5th, down at Calvary Chapel, Corona. And yes, we will take up a collection. We have to keep this business going somehow. So we do ask for you to support our work. But I am going to do a Train the Trainer. It's 3 hours long and it will be hardcore. This is not just a feel-good kind of thing. This is, what do you look for? How do you handle foreign national trafficking? What connection are there between trafficking and gangs and money laundering? What about social media exploitation? How does it work? What's the dark web? What's bulletproof hosting? How do dark web sites work? And then how do law enforcement be able to create those cases that are in there? And most important, what you can do to be able to intervene and assist if you think you have a situation where someone is at risk, either of human trafficking or social media exploitation. So this is, again, not a conference. It is what we call Train the Trainer. You want to be all buckled up and ready to hear some hard stuff. It is 3 hours, and it will be August 5th down at Calvary Chapel in Corona. And I want to thank my friend Sean Thornburg and his wife Jess for putting it together. They have an organization called Love Life, I think it is, or Love Life, I think. Anyway, but I want to invite you if you want to know the facts of all this. But some of what we will cover is how scary it is for our children to be online and not understand the dynamics of the relationship they are entering in. Much of the training that I do out there is talking about empowering relationships and exploitive relationships. No child should ever be online until they are prepared to analyze the type of relationship they're in with anybody on the internet. Are they at risk? What are the risk factors? What kind of behaviors are taking place between you with someone online that could put you in a compromising position? It really is amazing to me how both adults and teenagers can go online without understanding who they're interacting with. Now, most of us are at least trained to find phishing kinds of things that come on. Don't click on this, don't click on that. All you have to do is have one or two of those viruses, and you know why you don't want to click on that. But when it goes from a phishing expedition to a real life relationship that has all kinds of interaction and feedback where they can play on our emotions, most teenagers, and I would say even many adults, are not prepared to watch for those warning signs and be willing to pull the plug on that at any given moment that they think that they might be started into a exploitive kind of situation. And it's easy to do online because we're all on there. Some of you are bored, you're playing around, you're just having a good time. You don't think it's ever going to happen to you. And in fact, that's the number one challenge I have in combating these crimes is parents and kids say, it won't happen to me. And if you think that, trust me, you're about to be the next victim. This is Opal Singleton. We are up against that break, so stay with us. We're going to be right back.
Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. This is the most important book you will read this year, especially if you have children or grandchildren. We are living at the most important time in all of history. In 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet, more than 6 billion people coming together. Technology will provide many great advantages for our kids, but a world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pimps, predators, pedophiles, cartels, and organized crime. It is a home without walls because 87% of the kids sleep with their phone. It is the greatest societal experiment of all time. Our kids are technology geniuses, and their parents are technophobic. Some are techno-impotent. New apps come with no warnings on how a predator will use them against our kids. Advancing technologies like encrypted messaging, vaporware, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and the dark net will challenge law enforcement, teachers, and parents to keep kids safe. Recent research states that 9,000 kids a day are being blackmailed with a naked photo, and 58% will meet their predator. It is indeed a societal shift, and one in which most parents are unprepared. If you are a parent or grandparent, teacher, counselor, or social worker, please take time to read Societal Shift, Only $18.99 plus $6 shipping. Order today at millionkids.org. That's millionkids, millionkids.org. It'll be the greatest gift you can give your family and yourself. Order Societal Shift today. Million Kids takes checks and credit cards. Opal Singleton, the author, will personally sign the book and send it to you. Again, go to millionkids.org and order Societal Shift today. Join Million Kids. Keep our kids safe from predators.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton. This show is brought to you by millionkids.org, millionkids.org. You might want to look us up. You can Google Million Kids, Google my name, Opal Singleton. We have a YouTube page. We have hundreds of videos on that YouTube page, including all the back shows that are on there and many of my presentations. And it's a great way for you to learn about different kinds of technology. One of the things I highly recommend if you're on Facebook, and I'm not a fan of Facebook, but I'm on it, Million Kids, i.e. Million Kids, like Inland Empire, Million Kids, you can go on that and sign up. And we have new postings all the time. If you want some inside training, couple ways to get that is to go to millionkids.org and hit that newsletter. And you will be kept abreast of the latest things. We don't pound you to death. I'm probably one of the worst fundraisers you ever met, so you're a little safe on that. But if you want to get the real in-depth stuff, like recently we analyzed a new app that was out there called ICQ. It's a encrypted app that is used by a lot of regularly good people, but also a lot of predators and pedophiles that are out there that want to be able to communicate to large numbers of people. You can actually reach up to 25,000 people simultaneously on it, and it's encrypted. And while it has many good uses, it's already being used by a lot of predators. Anyway, if you want information like that, I run a private Facebook page called Million Kids Supporters. That doesn't mean you have to send us money, although we certainly appreciate it if you do. But Million Kids Supporters, you have to request to become a member. I will admit you, and that is where we put the inside information on what is going on out there related to any of these subjects that you need to know about. Well, one of the things that's happened in the past week has been interesting and exciting, a little bit scary at times, but it's turned out to be okay. So many of you know that, I fought this whole SB 357 for a long time. That is a bill that allows it in a way that law enforcement cannot intervene if you're loitering for the purpose of soliciting for street prostitution. Well, we lost that battle, but it really kind of gave me a seasoning of how bills work up in the legislation, how it gets through the Senate and it gets through the House and it gets through appropriations and public safety. And I zoomed on several of those bills and watched it. Well, then we tried to get through SB 1024. All of these are being put out by Shannon Grove out of Fresno area, who is an incredible, I think she's an assembly person. No, maybe she's a senator, I believe, Senator Shannon Grove. And she is really a hard-fighting person on the California legislative floor. And I'll tell you what, I have watched that on Zoom way so long. I don't know how that woman does it. I'm not running for any kind of office ever in California because it is dog eat dog, pull no punches up there in legislation. If they don't want to get a bill through, you're not even going to get a fair hearing. Well, in SB 1024, she proposed that sex trafficking would be was it sex trafficking? Yes, sex trafficking would be a violent and serious crime. Those are legal terms, not feel-good terms, and it means that you can get extended sentencing. California it started with Proposition 47, went to Proposition 57 in 2016. And there's this big push across California to let people out of prison early and then take away the bail and then take away any ability to do enhanced sentencing, such as the 3 strikes law. Well, SB 1024 would have made child sex crimes I've got that wrong, would have made human trafficking a violent and serious crime, and it failed. So then Shannon Grove didn't give up. She came back with SB 14, and that made child sex trafficking a serious crime, not a violent crime, a serious crime. And initially, it had come through the House, it had come through several of the committees. Then it was in Public Safety Committee, and it was voted down a week ago. And it was close, but it was voted down. And everybody was up in arms about that. They had 4,000 letters of support. A whole lot of people flew to Sacramento to stand for it. And at the last minute, the same group of people that always just arbitrarily shoot things down shot it down. Well, somehow they got through to Governor Newsom. I cannot explain to you why this happened, other than maybe we're looking at future elections. I'm not sure. But he suddenly said, I can't believe that this was shut down. This is a bill I support. And somehow, miraculously, in only 24 hours, there was an emergency revote, and it passed. And I have no understanding of the background kinds of things that would drive a vote like that. But I'm absolutely grateful. Now, it isn't absolutely finished yet, but it's close. And we do believe, based on the fact that Governor Newsom intervened, that that bill will go through. The advantage of that bill is that this way it kind of stops this whole circulation of pedophiles and pimps and sex traffickers that are violating our kids. They get sent off to prison, and then poof, they're just out again, gone, starting all over again. And so if we can get it to be a serious crime, that means that many of these people will get extended sentencing. And that just needs to happen. We were talking about what was happening, the difference between sounds of freedom trafficking and trafficking in Southern California. The problem with trafficking in Southern California is it starts out looking like a boyfriend. And it's mostly girls that are trafficked, although guys can be trafficked, not as much so, but in our communities, it's mostly girls. And, this guy all of a sudden turns on them. They end up being massively violated by others without going into detail, because this is a family show. But then the violence begins, and all kinds of threats. They take these girls out of the area where they can't contact anyone they know. They are put out in horrendous conditions and required to make X number of money, or they get beat, or they get burned, or they get group violated. It's a very difficult kind of thing. And this is the reason why we need SB 14. It is, in fact, a serious crime. Quite frankly, it should have been a serious and violent crime, but at least we're getting one of them through. But that means that some of these people that are really, really harming our kids, that once they're out there, can now be arrested and be into a system that has some chance of getting reasonable sentencing. And that is just ever so important to be able to do that. Very few people understand the amount of violence that takes place in the world of human trafficking because nobody wants to look at it. We all want to think about Pretty Woman in the movie, and that was a nice movie, but that doesn't have anything to do with the reality of what our young people get into. The work that Million Kids does is to keep people out of it. To talk about it, let them see what's going to happen here, and that hopefully we can intervene and they not get caught up in it. They never, ever intend to go down, the victims never, ever intend to go down the road they're about to go down. They are unable to visualize this, and somehow they just assume this isn't going to happen to them. But once they cross that line of meet up and connecting with that guy, their lives will change forever. And it will become very violent, and they won't know where they're at, and they often are drugged, and it literally becomes a completely different world, a world that is very hard for them to get back out of. And California laws are such that it's hard for people to charge that perpetrator. And it's hard to even get young people back out once they're in it. This is the reason why Million Kids does the work that we do, where we educate kids in school to help them understand what it means to be in a world of human trafficking. And that, in fact, it happens, and it happens right here in our community before our eyes, and that they will often be moved away from here, and people from other communities are brought here, and the violation goes on. And once you're in it, it's hard to get out. It is not like Sounds of Freedom, but it's equally horrific, and it is very, very real. And it is the work of Million Kids to do everything we can to make it so that our kids do not fall in love online, do not go out and meet up with one of those people, and do not end up in a world of sex trafficking. My name is Opal Singleton. I'm the president and CEO of an organization called millionkids.org. We appreciate your support, and we appreciate you listening. We got one more break. We'll be right back. Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited, Crimes and Technology. I want to tell you about a book I wrote called Seduced, The Grooming of America's Teenagers. It's all about how predators access, groom, recruit, and exploit our young people using social media, online gaming, video chat rooms. Technology is changing at the speed of light, and we have to understand how to keep our kids safe from predators. So you can get this book by going to www.millionkids.org. It's $16. I'll sign it, and I'll ship it to you personally. We hope that you will order this book, educate yourself about how to keep our kids safe in this day of changing technology. Join us each Saturday for our radio show at Exploited, Crimes and Technology at 3 o'clock on AM 590. The Answer.
Custom Service Systems, a proud supporter of Million Kids, is a family-owned and operated commercial cleaning company servicing the Inland Empire and surrounding areas since 1974. CSS takes pride in their ability to maintain the business facilities they serve and their long-lasting relationships with their valued clients. CSS provides a variety of cleaning systems customized to client needs, including deep cleaning and disinfectant to be COVID-19 compliant. From basic office cleaning to windows and floors, CSS will clean up your mess so you don't have to stress. Custom Service Systems cares about families and communities and wants to give back. Custom Service Systems are proud supporters of Million Kids to keep kids safe from predators. If you need the best cleaning services for your business or corporation, contact Custom Service Systems at cssclean.com. Again, cssclean.com, or call 951-781-9345. That's 951-781-9345. You will know you found the best. Custom Service Systems.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology. Let me tell you about my friend Doris Anderson at Remax Realty in Upland. She is amazing. She's kind, she's patient, but she listens. And she's informed, and she will help you with your real estate transaction in a way that works for you. Doris, in full disclosure, often supports the work of Million Kids because she cares about young people. But she knows how to analyze a market, how to market a property, and how to find just the right transaction for both buyers and sellers. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate or invest in income property, contact Doris Anderson at Remax Realty 951-733-8899. That's 951-733-8899. 951-733-8899.
AM 590. The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton, and we are talking about these issues of human trafficking and social media exploitation here in the Inland Empire. When it comes to social media exploitation, it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter. People say, can you give me the stats? Our stats are no different than anybody else's stats. If you're online, anybody, anywhere can reach you. Now, in human trafficking, California is always the number one state, and we have the most victims. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Part of it is we have quite a bit of gang activity, and this is heavily gang-driven. But we also have a lot of family structures that maybe are a little bit different than some of them are in the Midwest and like that. But a lot of it also is because we have a lot of kids that are on social media and on their morning, noon, and night. So somebody asked me, can you help us prepare parents on what to do? Well, the first thing a parent needs to do before you ever give your child any kind of device is have a strong relationship with them. If you're already in a conflict relationship, if you're already having behavior problems, giving a device to someone is not going to be helpful. Because in my opinion, the only healthy way for young people to be online is to have that strong relationship with mom and dad where you have a lot of communication and you have a lot of problem-solving kinds of success between you. And that is important because when you put a child online, they are going to have more opportunities for decision-making and problem-solving than you have ever had in their entire lives, because they are going to meet a lot of people and they're going to have to decide, is this person trustworthy? Does this person have my best interest at heart? Does this look like a legitimate kind of a situation? So if your child doesn't have good decision-making skills, you are really setting them up the minute that you put them on a device. I always suggest to parents that you get a contract between you, a physical written contract. The number one thing on the contract is that you will understand every app they have on their phone, and they will not place any apps on their phone that you don't know about. And if they do, well, that's the end of the device for them. It's that simple. If they put a calculator on the front of it, a calculator app where they're hiding other apps, that's an indication that they are not being forthright with you. You see, I believe that we need to prepare this group of young people to live in a world without borders, a world of technology. It's going to get more and more complex. Can we sue Meta? Yeah, we probably can. Can we go up to legislation? Yeah, we probably can. But until you have a trustworthy relationship between you and your child, then you're going to have a child that's at risk online. And it's that simple. So you get the agreement that you will see their phone regularly, and that number one, and number two, you're going to know every app that's on there and how it works because you're going to check it from time to time. The number two thing you're going to share and put in that agreement is they will never send an image that they would not send to you, okay, or their grandmother. Because once a photo goes online, anybody can alter it and anybody can use it against them. And you have that agreement. And if you ever see them violating that agreement, then you will bar back the phone until you get past that, where they can make good, strong decisions again. You see, all of this, you're putting a device in their hands where they are going to make millions of decisions. And if your child does not have good cognitive reasoning and decision-making processes, your child could easily end up being a victim. I don't care how cute they are. The number three thing is that if they get themselves in trouble somehow, like maybe they sent a photo or maybe they didn't. There are things called deep fakes out there where somebody takes the head, a perfectly innocent photo of a head, and puts it on an erotic naked body and threatens people with it. If they find themselves in any kind of problem, they're willing to come to you and that you're willing to work with them to get a resolution. So mom and dad, here's what happens. They come to you, you see it, or you happen to see it and intervene. What you don't do is you don't go online and tell that predator, I know what you're doing to my child. You don't do that. Do not alert them. They can show up at your house, even if they live, 1,000 or 2,000 miles away, and they can harm your whole family. We've seen way more of those kinds of cases. Number two, your child can then want to sneak out and meet up with that person. That is part of your agreement, that they will never, ever, ever go out and meet up with someone they met online. It is that simple. We see cases where kids are murdered, where they're raped, where they're kidnapped and taken away. And then on top of it, what you need to know is if your child's involved in this kind of thing, screenshot it. Don't show that to everybody in your family. Keep it between you and your child, but screenshot it. Do not delete it, and go directly to your law enforcement and ask for cyber crimes. That way, law enforcement can stand in for your child, and you and your child can perhaps save hundreds of other kids who are being blackmailed, whose parents aren't as smart as you are, for having an understanding of how all this works. So don't alert them, don't delete it, don't show it to everybody. Do sit down with your child and say, I'm here for you. We're going to get through this. I believe in you. I'm going to help you through it. And that you have a partnership to protect them. This is really serious business, what is happening. We're seeing cases here where young people end up, especially young males, they get caught up in this, and then somebody wants $3,500 and they panic and take their own life. Talk with your kids that they don't run away, they don't meet up, and they won't ever do anything crazy like trying to take their own life if they get in trouble. They need to trust you enough that the two of you can find a right way to handle this. This could be a Nigerian telemarketing company, or it could be a pimp from right down the street that's wanting to court your daughter. Either way, mom and dad, you need that agreement, you need that relationship, and you yourself need to be trained on what you should do and can do. Please follow Million Kids at millionkids.org. If you want to support our organization financially, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. It means everything in the world to us. We are probably some of the last to get good funding out there because we're prevention and intervention as opposed to a safe house or something like that. But we believe getting there first is the greatest gift that we can give to families across America so that kids don't get violated, so that kids are leaders, so that parents understand how real this is, and grandparents, and that you can talk about it. And the bottom line to all of this is not about running around wagging your finger saying, you be careful. It is about a change in our society. That my book I wrote, Societal Shift, A World Without Borders, A Home Without Walls. Our society has changed, and our kids are going to have to learn to live in that world. A world where millions of people are going to try to tell them what to think, try to tell them of their value or not, try to seduce them into meeting up, try to coax them and seduce them into maybe earning some money through commercial sex, which ends up in money laundering for pimps and gangs and cartels. It's a tough world out there, but it's also a world where we need leaders. And if you're still listening to this show, you are a leader. I hope you'll write to me, some of you, at OPAL, at millionkids.org. I appreciate it very much. I appreciate each and every one of you that fund and support this show and the work of Million Kids. We are based in the Inland Empire. We do work all across the United States, been around forever, have a strong reputation for doing the hard stuff that very few people out there are willing to do. But I believe it is worth seeing the movie Sounds of Freedom. But I also think it's important for you to know that this kind of thing is taking place in the U.S., but not like the Sounds of Freedom, more like the fact that it's somebody that your kid is going to meet online or that foster kid is going to take up with. So there are ways we can help at-risk kids. There are ways that we can help each other. Even parents and grandparents, you are so important in the fight to combat this kind of thing. It's all about educating our kids. Our kids don't want to be violated. Our kids want to be leaders. I've trained too many, something like 700,000 of them now. And I know that they are looking for us to equip them and believe in them. And most kids don't want to be violated. They want to lead the world in a way that makes us all proud. Folks, as the week comes up, it's getting hot out there. We're used to it. It keeps you agitated. Don't let that happen to you this week, okay? Take time, take a deep breath, look at your spouse, look at your kids, let them know you believe in them, that you love them, that you're there to support them, and proud to be part of a family. I'll see you next Saturday at 3 o'clock right here on AM 590, The Answer.